March 30th, 2025. This is my review of reading Joshua 22, 23, and 24. And actually, this was exciting again. Reading about the history of very repetitive about, okay, this tribe got that, this tribe got that, over and over and over again. I know there's value in it. It's hard for me to see that and glean usefulness out of it. But I know it's there, and I don't want to discount any kind of thing in this holy word. But reading through it in a year, there's stuff that's, hey, what's in there? I'm always looking for something, and there always has been something. But this has been back to having a lot more. We start off with just just remembering to obey the law or obey the Lord, love the Lord your God, walk in His ways, obey His commands, hold firmly to Him, and serve Him with all your heart and soul. Joshua blessed them and sent them away, and they went home. So this is the tribes going back, the tribes that were west of the Jordan going back home, whereas they had helped overcome and help the other tribes get their land, drive out the other people, and so they're going back home. So they're sent on their way with a blessing, and on their way they decide to build this altar on their side of the river, a great big altar, and the other tribes see this and go, "Oh my gosh, they're sinning. This is bad. This is not good. This is terrible." And so they are very convinced they need to deal with sin, which is great. It's awesome, and they confront them and say, "Hey, they're ready to go to war over this. They're ready to take care of sin because they're thinking of the sin of Achan, how that caused death and destruction in their tribes through his sin. So they didn't want sin in their midst, and they were driven to chase that down and chase that out, which is great. So they first, before they just went after them, they confronted them. They said, "Hey, why would you sin? Why would you do this?" And they said, "Hey, we're not sinning. We know that the only place that we can offer sacrifices is at the tabernacle. This is not for offering burnt offerings or sacrifices. This is a memorial." And again, we uh, saw Joshua do this when he crossed over. So this is just a memorial. Don't get me wrong. This is so that we can remember that we worship at the altar of at the tabernacle, not here. This is an altar, a memorial altar, not that kind of altar. So and then like, oh, okay, pure of heart, and that's something I think there's a message in that. Sometimes we think that there's other people out there that are worshiping different than we are. Hey, that's not right. We got to stop and think, are they pure of heart in that? Are they honoring God with their worship and with what they're doing? We got to really think about these things before we condemn that. And it's good to confront sin, but there's sin that leads to death and sin that does not lead to death as well, that we need to be careful, and we have to bear with one another as well. That's another thing that we have to look at too. But this is a firm example of, just because it doesn't look right, find out about it before we go condemning it. So great things there. I just love that little story there. Then we get, Joshua's final words to Israel: "Cling tightly to the Lord your God as you've done till now." So again, they're acknowledging that they're doing right, that they're following in what God has told them to do. And again, Joshua's about to die, and he says, "As surely as the Lord your God has given you the good things he has promised, he will also bring disaster for disobedience that will come." So be careful of that. Watch out. And then he goes in, so fear the Lord and serve him wholeheartedly. And we get the other very famous verse, but as for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. And that's something to declare. That was what he was declaring over his family with what he got for his his land. Then they bury Joshua at that time. We will serve the Lord. We will serve the Lord. This group of people is all about it. They're buying down. It's good stuff. So that's exciting to read about when people do, and we see the blessings and the obedience. So this was an exciting read this morning. Got me fired up. The last few readings have been a little bit more difficult, but this was good. That's what we got.